So last night I went to the theatre here in Edinburgh to see Jekyll and Hyde, a new one-man show adaptation at the Lyceum. And I'm afraid to say it was really disappointing. It was really perplexingly bad. The main problem with it was the script. It was extremely flat throughout. It felt like it could have been written in a sitting, certainly in less time than it took to actually watch the show. That might sound hyperbolic, but from the very start, the language was never more animated than you'd expect of a technical announcement or ladies and gentlemen, take your seats. There was no life in the language, no complexity, no richness, no color, no music. There were no ideas which took the form of words or lent themselves to words, which is a pretty big problem when you're performing a pretty wordy hour and a half long one-man play. It was like the choice of medium, words, was actually an obstacle and not a choice. It all felt incredibly familiar, incredibly heard. When he told a joke, it was had a sort of BBC formulaic quality to it. Painfully telegraphed, set up, long, drawn out, run to the punchline that you guessed 5 lines ago. A lot of synonymizing to a tedious extent. If he said it was a cold night, not at all warm. Cold, like when the temperature is low. Cold, like in winter. It was very dark too, not at all light. It was wet too, not at all dry. And it also had an irritating tendency to fixate on its own failings to put things into words. Utterson, so the one man was playing Utterson for the most part, and then he would sort of step into other characters in the story. And if you're already thinking, oh, one man pretending to be lots of other men, I wonder if that will resurface in a Jekyll and Hydean way. You've guessed at the production's one idea. But again and again, Utterson would describe the way in which he lacked the words to tell us, the audience, what was going on. Oh, I just don't have the words. I lack the vocabulary. I don't have the words to describe the horror I'm looking upon. Imagination is bounded by the limits of experience, he said at one point. Again and again. It must have been about 30% of the show was saying how he couldn't say something. The thing is, in Stevenson's novel, characters lack words frequently, but Stevenson doesn't waste pages having them say, I lack the words to talk about this. Do you? Yes, I also lack the words. He just shows how they lack the words. He shows them in moments of appalled quietude. It's pretty damning that the play somehow manages to show less and tell more than the novel does. I think pretty much the one thing it has going for it is that the actor was Scottish. All of the characters sounded Scottish. When I wrote my introduction to the John K. Press version of Jekyll and Hyde, I enumerated some of the many ways in which the London set novel actually has a lot of Scottishness in it. So that was nice, but I mean, slim pickings really. I think the actor did a fine job. I mean, hats off to any actor who can basically hold a whole show in his own head for an hour and a half. But the script really brought him down. Unfortunately, you remember bad lines, not good acting. I don't think there was anything particularly wrong with his acting, but with a script like that, it was sort of besides the point, unfortunately. The design too was weird, partly because they had this sort of frame that was illuminated and kept coming on and off. And the weird thing was it almost resembled the logo of the rival theatre that's just around the corner from them, the Traverse. People from Edinburgh will know what I mean. It was like a white illuminated square. That was slightly distracting, and then it was used like a jump scare would be used in a horror movie. The lights would just flash on and flash off, and every whiteout would have this sort of jump scare sound effect. It got old incredibly quickly. Overall, it was just really baffling to try and work out why Gary McNair, the writer, had sort of bothered to adapt Jekyll and Hyde. There are famously terrible Jekyll and Hyde movies that have way more ideas than this. It had a sort of cursory twist, which felt more like a contractual formality than something someone had actually thought of. It certainly didn't engage with the ideas of Jekyll and Hyde in any kind of new way or interesting way. Jekyll and Hyde has, you could say, quite a schlocky ending, the original, but it somehow managed to come up with an even schlockier one. It was just, all in all, really, really deflating. And I know it's a one-man play and it's theatre and everyone's supposed to be relentlessly positive about live theatre because it's in a tough place and all that, but this isn't the Fringe. This isn't a random performer who's an independent. The Lyceum doesn't have movie money or anything like that, but this is a professionally funded piece of theatre, and for it to lack ambition so palpably was dispiriting, to say the least. Next week, I'm going to see Ray Fiennes in Macbeth, so hopefully that will be a different kind of theatrical experience. But yeah, Jekyll and Hyde at the Lyceum, big disappointment.